Someone steps into your bedroom and turns on a 600-watt bulb next to you, your first and normal reaction is going to be to turn away. Why? Because the light hurts your eyes, and you're not ready for that much light. So actually you turn away. Why? The same is true symbolically when someone who is intellectually and spiritually enlightened, we call that person brilliant. This guy is brilliant. That person is brilliant, meaning they're filled with light, intellectual, spiritual enlightenment. But most people who live in the dark, they can't handle it. I don't want to hear this stuff. This is what we call cognizant dissonance, meaning I've never heard this before. This is bull. I don't want to hear it. It hurts my eyes. Why? Because you can't handle the truth. You can't handle spiritual light. So therefore, you turn away. Well, when someone who is spiritually enlightened is trying to teach you something and enlighten you, what are you doing? You are listening to that person. But as you're listening to him, what are you doing? You are judging in your brain, in your mind, if this guy is for real, or is he just a good showman, or is he full of bull, or is it true? And so you are judging. This is why the scripture says Jesus was held to be judged in the temple. That's right, the temple, the side of your head. And when you decide that you've heard enough of this and you don't want to hear any more of this light, you want to go back to sleep, you don't want to hear this light, what have you done? You have now put God's Son to death, the Son of enlightenment, the intellectual, spiritual light from the universe you have now put to death in your head. Why? Because that's where God's Son dies, Golgotha, skull place in your head. Skull place, that's where he's put to death. The bottom line is that the entire New Testament is a metaphor for the war between light and darkness, and most people can't handle the light.
When you embrace your light, the Lucifer within, you come to conscious awareness, which transcends the incarnation and the aspect of the spirit for that incarnation. When you grasp this, then you go beyond the limitations that are placed upon you, the true self, and you go to the true self. You understand what it is to be the light, the Lucifer, and the fur, the way, the codes, the knowledge. You understand what it is to be Lucifer, as Jesus said, I am the light, I am the way. And I remind you, for those that may jump back at me, I'm not religious. He wasn't religious. He was a bloody anarchist, and probably the greatest expression of anarchy that we've ever bore witness to through our history books and this, that and the other. As he does, you can do also and be like him. But it's going to take a reset of monumental proportions for you to go beyond the 5 cents prison, go beyond the spiritual self, go beyond the mind, the ego, to the true self, seeking to attain this. And if you listen to me, I try to empower, enlighten and enable you to be the same. And I do it in my own way. Blue Rage posted a comment on my last upload. Why don't you get to the point? He's not the first person to say something like that. You know, that defines him, because he's used to watching the telly and having a scripted, professional presentation programming him. I'm not trying to program anybody. I'm trying to deprogram them and awaken them. So, Blue Rage, I've muted you. When you awaken, when you start to awaken, email me, give me evidence that you're starting to awaken, and I'll unmute you. And the same goes for anybody else I've muted or blocked. When you can come to me and show that you're on this path of awakening and you're not going to comment shit on my channel, I'll unblock you or unmute you. You'll only find your way home, people, if you transcend the spiritual self, the ego self, the mind, and the physical self. The home you will find within. It is the light, it is the way. But you've got to transcend everything that you think you are, physically, mentally, emotionally, egotistically, and spiritually, to find home, the true self. Cannot express that enough. You've got to transcend all that you think you are, because you're not this body, you're not this mind, you're not this ego, you're not the emotions that you feel, and you're not the spiritual being that you think you are. That's all the prison for the soul, the true self, the light and the way, the Lucifer within. And when you understand this, seek to comprehend it and learn about it, everything changes. Everything changes. The Lakota have a phrase called Hokahe, it's a good day to die. And you have to die in order that you may truly become aware. And it's not a physical thing. You have to put to death and to kill all that you think you are in order that you may know what it is to live. And all the while you're battling outside of you, you'll never battle within you, like I've been doing for many years now. When Jordan speaks about blinded by the light, I know exactly what he means, because I've been blinded by my own light for years. Found comfort in my shadows and my shadow self for many years. Death is something that you have to control. You have to put to death all that they've told you you are. This physical self, this emotional self, this ego self. You must put to death and still the mind in order that you can transcend the spiritual you, Barry, or whoever the spiritual you is, to the true you, the true self, the source consciousness that you are, that is simply on a soul journey, having a spiritual experience in a carbon-based unit body avatar, here in the third dimensional reality on planet Earth. That's just one aspect of you, the true self, the soul, and what you're doing at this moment. But because you're locked in a prison of the mind, of the five senses, etc., you can't see beyond that. And you're just fighting within that. Fighting against your fellow man. You'll have reset after reset after reset. Until you reset the self. Take responsibility for your own self. Seek to understand who and what you truly are. You will forever be who and what they want you to be, incarnation after incarnation after incarnation. You can be forgiven if you don't know. But if you don't want to know, that is unforgivable. Palamia, thank you for listening. In Lakesh, in UIC and enemy. Mitaku e Yasin. We are all related. We are all relatives. But I tell you, we are all connected. What do you choose to be?